everyone, welcome to another Procreate tutorial. This is the drawing that we will be completing in today's video. If you are new here, I mainly post Procreate tutorials, so if that is something you're interested, go ahead and subscribe. Otherwise, before we get started, the only thing you'll need to download is the color palette, which is totally free. I have a link down in the description. Just open up the file that downloads in Procreate and it'll automatically import the color palette that we'll be using in today's video. Okay, first things first, our canvas dimensions. We are doing 16 inches by 20 inches at 250 dpi, and our color profile is the RGB color profile with all the letters and numbers. This is the color palette, so the first few colors are the background, then we have the mountains, and then our cliff and the clouds is the last row there. So we will get started. We will first grab the second color, this pink color, and on layer 1 we will drag it to fill the entire background. Then let's open up our layers menu and add a new layer on top of this one, and then go into our color palette and select this third color on the first row, this orange color. And the brush that we will be using is under inking. It's the dry ink brush, and we have it at about 15 to 20%, and we are just going to draw our sun in the upper right corner, just a little bit below the top of our canvas and about 1/3 from the right side of our canvas. Then drag the color from the upper right corner to fill it in. Next, we're going to make some little cutouts in the sun, so we're going to grab the selection tool on freehand selected, and then we're just going to kind of cut out some little slices of our sun. So we're going to touch a dot on the outside, a dot on the inside, and then a dot on the outside, connect them, and then click the arrow tool and drag that section off the screen, and that'll get rid of it. And click on the selection tool again, and we're just going to make another one underneath this. We'll make this one a little smaller. The first one we made go about halfway into the sun, and then we'll make another one on the left side. So just keep repeating those steps until we have all 3 of them done. Okay, now we're going to start making our mountains. So let's go back into the layer menu and add a new layer on top of this one. And the first thing we're actually going to do is go into the gear icon up on the upper left here and click drawing guide, turn it on under the canvas settings, and then click edit drawing guide, symmetry, and then under options click horizontal. So we're just going to use this as kind of a guide for one of our mountains later, so I just wanted to turn that on. Go into your layers menu, and if the layer that you're on says assisted, make sure to click it and turn off drawing assist. Let's go into the color palette and select this first color on the second row, and under our brushes menu we are going to stay on this dry ink brush and the same size that we used to draw the sun, originally 15 to 20%, and we are just going to draw a quick mountain shape along the background here. We want the tip to go right underneath the sun, and then we want it to go up and down on the sides, so it's tallest in the middle, and then it goes down on each side a little bit. But just take some time to, reshape your points a little bit. Doesn't really matter how many there are. Just make, 4 or 5 or 6 across, some bigger, some smaller, and then reshape them at the end to make them a little pointier if you'd like. And fill below the shape so that this entire thing is filled in with this color. Okay, next add a new layer in the layers menu above this layer, and then go into the color palette and select the second layer on this second row. And the same brush and everything, we are just going to draw some shadows on the mountains here. So we are going to follow the side of one of the peaks and then draw a line straight down and then connect it at the bottom so it's a little triangle shape, and we are going to fill that in with this color. And I'm only going to do it on these 3 bigger ones closest to the sun. Okay, back to the layers menu, we're going to add a new layer, and then using that same color and same brush, we are going to make another little mountain line in front of this one with that same color. So I'm just going to make a few peaks on the left here, and we're going to have it mostly be on the left, and then it's going to go all the way down to and off to the right, because we're going to cover that part on the right with the next layer. So we mainly want the focus of this one to be on the left side of the canvas. Again, maybe, make some of your peaks a little pointier, and make sure to fill it in below. Then we're going to add another new layer above this one, go back to our color palette and select the third color on the second row. Same brush and everything, we're going to do the exact same thing, but this is where this horizon line becomes important, this line that we turned on for symmetry. We want to make sure that this mountain goes above it on the right side just a little bit, because that's where we're going to draw one of our lines at the very end, and we want to be able to put the line behind this mountain. So again, similar to our last one, we want this one's focus to be mostly on the right side, and then fill that in below. Back to our layers menu, we're going to add our last mountain, so add a new layer, grab this fourth color on the second row, and this is going to be our last little mountain range type hill thing. And what we want to do is have it kind of come to a valley, pretty close to the right side, but kind of close to the middle. But we want a nice little dip in there. That's where we're going to draw our river. So again, fill it in below there. And then smooth out any hills. Before we draw our river, this is our last chance to make some adjustments to the background here. So with this last layer selected, I'm going to click the arrow tool, turn on snapping and magnetics down here. And then I'm going to drag this layer up just a little bit so that it covers about the bottom 1/3 of our canvas. And then I'm going to fill in below in that space that I created so that it's all one cohesive layer. Next, open up this layer menu and add a new layer on top. Click on it and click clipping mask, and then go into the color palette and select this last color on the second row. Same brush and everything again, and we're going to just draw a little river coming from our dip and going off the left side of the screen. Just put some little curves in it, and then do the same thing on the other side, kind of mimicking those same curves, and again going a little towards the left side of our canvas and then off the bottom of the screen. And connect the shape at the top and fill it in. Next, we're going to make our cliffs, so go back into our layers menu, add a new layer, and then go into our color palette and select this white color, the third color on the third row. And then on the left side of our canvas, right about where that last hill, the top of that last hill is that we created, we're just going to draw a squiggly line going off the left side of the page pretty horizontally, and then draw another squiggly line below it going off the page as well, like this, so it almost looks like a triangular shape, and then fill that in. Then go back into our layers menu, add a new layer, drag it below this layer we just created, and if it turns into a clipping mask, click it and uncheck clipping mask. Go into the color palette and select this first color on the last row, and we are going to draw the bottom part of the cliff. So we just want to start at the point and then draw a squiggly line down to the bottom of the page, going a little bit towards the left like this. And then we're just going to add some more details, kind of like the rocks that would be part of the cliff side, and then draw a line underneath the white area to connect it to the side of the screen so that you can fill it in. I actually want to make this a little bit more up and down so it doesn't look like it's just kind of floating in midair, so we're going to just make it a little thicker on this underside here to give it some more definition and fill the page up a little bit more. Okay, now we're going to add the borders and the lines before we add any finishing details. So go into your layers menu, add a new layer on top of everything, and then go into the color palette, select this very first color on the first row, and then what we're going to do is set up a grid. So under the gear icon, the drawing guide's already on, so click edit drawing guide, and then here we're going to use 2D grid, the first option, and then for our sizing, what we want to do, and this is very specific, is have 32 lines or squares across the bottom of the canvas. The size that I have, if you use the same size as me, is 125 pixels. You can click on the grid size and type that in. But again, 32 going across. When you have that ready, we are going to grab the selection tool, click rectangle and color fill, and with that cream color selected, we're just going to draw the borders. So I want them to be 3 squares on each side, bottom, left, right, and top. So just drag some rectangles to cover exactly 3 squares. Redo them if you need to until you have them all done. So next we're going to draw 3 skinnier lines across the canvas, and they're all going to be on separate layers so that we can put them in different parts of the picture. So the first one is going to be right above this pink layer that we drew as the original background. So find that layer on the layers menu and then add a new layer above it, and we are going to again select the rectangle tool, or the selection tool with rectangle color fill, and we're going to count 7 spaces and then draw a line on the 8th square, covering just 1 square this time, so it's a thinner line. The arrow tool so that it's not selected anymore, so that you can see how it turned out. And this one should be behind our sun in the top area. Next, we're going to add a new layer above the second mountain that we made. So above the second, below the third. And what we need to do now is find the halfway point. So we are going to go back to our gear icon, click Edit Drawing Guide, and there should be this little dot right in the very middle of the canvas. And we just kind of want to make a mental note of where that's at. And then we're going to draw a rectangle that's 1 square wide right there. It doesn't have to be perfect. I promise that you won't notice if it's a little bit off, but just somewhere right in that area. We want it to be behind our third mountain here, and that's why we drew that mountain just slightly above the halfway point. And then lastly, we are going to draw one in the bottom area. So we are going to go into our layers menu and find the river and add a new layer above that one. If it turns into a clipping mask, turn that off, but we are going to count 7 spaces from the bottom and then draw it on the 8th square, just 1 square across. And so then it will be right under our cliffside, but above that last hill that we drew. We do want our sun to be above this stuff, so we are going to go into our layers menu, find the sun layer and drag that above everything, and then we're going to add some details. So let's go into our settings and turn the drawing guide off. We don't need to see that grid anymore. Now that our border is done, before we add any details, I actually want the cliff to be a little bit bigger, so we're going to go into our layers menu, select the 2 cliff layers, and I'm going to tilt them a little bit and then just make them a little bit bigger. Okay, when you have everything the way you like, we are going to add the finishing touches. So we are going to go into our layers menu, add a new layer on top of our cliff layers, and we are going to grab this first color on the 3rd row and the same dry ink brush that we've been using. Let's have the size at about 20% still, and we're just going to draw a little grass tuft right off the side of the cliff here, and then we're going to draw some small little rocks all along this white part of the top of the cliff. Next, while on that same layer, go into the colors palette and select the second color on the last row. And we're just going to draw some little shapes on the side of the cliff here just to give it some more detail. Pretty wonky little shapes, just kind of following the cliff side that we created here. Then let's go back to our colors palette and go back to the first color on the last row there. And we're actually going to go into our layers menu and drag this layer up above the sun because we are going to draw our birds now, and we might as well just draw them on this same layer. So we want them to be in front of our sun, so we're going to draw a little one there, a bigger one here, and then a little tiny one up on the right here. Cute. Next, we're going to do our clouds, which is the last step. So let's add a new layer, go into our color palette and select this last white color on the last row, And with the same brush that we've been using this whole time, we are going to draw a straight horizontal line. Touch your finger to the screen to make it perfectly horizontal. And we want it above our borders, and so we're going to have this one go off the left side a little bit, and we're going to just draw some little humps here on the top to create the cloud shape. Make it bigger here, and then we're going to go back down and connect it on the left side here, and then fill it in. Then we are going to make another one on the right side underneath this one, a little bit lower on our canvas and a little bit smaller. So we're going to again make a very horizontal line and then start it right next to the first one that we made, but have it go off the right side of the canvas instead. Awesome, that is it for our drawing today. I hope you had fun. If you did, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more tutorials. If you want to post your drawing on Instagram, please do so and tag me so that I can see how it turned out. While you're there, go ahead and give me a follow to see what I'm working on next. Thanks for watching.